Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Wednesday, November 11th, 2020, and you got In Touch with the Miller Boys, your weekly talk show where we discuss all things impacting the African American community of the city of Fresno and the surrounding area. And it's always our pleasure to have this space and these discussions with you. As always, I'm joined by my lovely brother.
Hi.
Don't say hi. I need you to fill in because I'm trying to find how to share this.
Hi.
It's not.
How are you?
It is.
Yeah, it's Veterans Day today, and
It
like
is.
we say, all things African American and the positive connection. So you can see my background. I don't know anybody in that picture, but it's some African American males that have served and given their cause for the country that Donald Trump just pooped all on, and so we're still appreciative that we can be in that space and in that place, and to all of the veterans, we like to say we're glad that you're here. We're glad that that we can give special thanks and grace to you for all that you have done for us and all you have done for the country. We appreciate it. We love you. Those are the Aarons, the Harrys, the Isaiahs, the Tamias, the everybody. I can't name everybody I know. To the Terry Hebrons, to the on and on and on.
You did a whole bunch of them. I forgot about my boy Terry. Although I did see his Green Mile Facebook picture today. I don't know if you saw that or not.
Nah, but we just watching Green Mile right now. It was on.
He sent a picture from Thailand. Basically saying Happy Veterans Day. He looked like the Green Mile as usual.
Yes.
But yeah, so yeah, I sent out a post earlier today. We've got a bunch of people in the family that have served. As you said, Daddy and Aaron, Uncle George and Uncle Hank both served in the Army. Uncle Andy served in the Navy. Grandpa Miller served in the Navy.
Uncle John.
Yeah. What's that?
Uncle John.
Yeah, Uncle John, Grandma's brother, served in the Navy. They were at the end of World War II. I don't think they got into, I think they went in like in 44, 45, 46, something like that. So it was at the end of the World War II that they went in and served. Remember Uncle Jake?
Yes.
Grandma Lucy's brother.
Yes.
His twin, Charlie, Jake and Charlie, both served in the military. We got the Burnses out in Tulsa on the Miller side. I forget their names. There was two brothers out there that served in the Army.
Uncle Jack Daniels, Uncle Jim Bean.
Yeah, you funny. Uncle Austin Nichols. You know Austin Nichols?
Yeah, he was in everybody's pocket. I had to get you out of my pocket. And speaking of which, man, I'm gonna get something for you. You like 100 proof whiskey, right?
100 plus.
100 plus. Well, yeah. He only pull up with 2 zeros.
Who's this? Uncle Nearest?
Uncle Nearest, yeah. Have you had that before?
I have. I haven't had 100 proof, but I have had 18, whatever it is, 1788, 1887, or whatever it is. It's the regular one. I've had that. Yeah. So yeah, I'm a whiskey connoisseur. The whiskey goes good with everything. You can cook with whiskey. Put it in your barbecue sauce and
you could cook with whiskey and it never hit the pan. You do all that.
You're hilarious. Okay, so keeping in the theme, I got a bunch of stuff, by the way, tonight about the military. So keeping in the theme, I want to give a shout out to
Is that Uncle Nearest here?
Fresno. I don't know if it's Fresno County or the city of Fresno Veterans Day Parade, which happened today. For those of us who are here in the Central Valley, we may not know this, but the Fresno Parade is the oldest Veterans Day parade west of the Mississippi. A lot of people don't understand that, don't know that. And there was some conversation about not having it because of what's going on with COVID and stuff, but I'm glad they did have it. I wasn't able to participate, but I'm glad that they did ultimately have it. For those of you who have not been down there to that parade, that's about a 5-hour parade of local servicemen, local veterans from the different forces that goes on and does their parade. It's a beautiful thing. If you've never been down there, please, hopefully this time next year, COVID will be taken care of. So November 11th of 2021, you'll be able to go down. They usually start at the Convention Center parking lot and go down. Is that M Street, Gerald, that's in front of City Hall? Street,
P Street.
whatever.
P
Street, okay. So they start at Convention Center parking lot, and then they go down P Street. Yeah, there you go, 1894. That's not the 100 proof though, is it?
No, it's only the 80 proof.
Yeah, that's the one that I had before. What you doing with that? You don't drink that stuff.
You don't know what I do.
Yeah, I do. I know a whole bunch about you.
No, you don't.
Stepping up your game. You done got rid of the. Okay, so you know the story on that, right?
Yes, I do. This is 93 proof.
Okay, so it's a little over. So what have you heard about the story about Uncle Nearest?
He's the one, the slave that taught Jack Daniels how to make Jack Daniels.
Exactly.
And Jack Daniels basically stole the recipe from Uncle Nearest. Somebody in his family did the history, found out, and they started making their own whiskey. So it is a black-owned whiskey. I don't know if it's the only or the first, but it is a black-owned whiskey company. And I have a bottle right here for you know.
You ain't sharing?
Yeah, I'm sharing.
That bottle look kind of full.
Yeah. Hey, I sip. I don't drink to get drunk.
Yeah,
ain't no fun in that. You better go get you some Ripple.
I think you're trying to lure me down. That's like a fishing lure. You're trying to lure me down there where you are, huh?
You said it got to be over 100 proof.
Well, you know, you do what you got to do.
Hey, Christmas is coming. I found a store that sell it pretty regularly.
Local?
No.
Yeah, I haven't been able to find it local. No. I don't know. I ain't been really looking, but you can actually order that online. You can get orders of that through the internet, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, yes, I want to make sure that I mention that shout out for the Veterans Day Parade. As I said, I should have done more so I can tell you the dates and history, but I just know that it is recognized as the oldest Veterans Day Parade west of the Mississippi. And so shout out to the city of Fresno and those people who are part of that.
And special shout out to the Marines. Yesterday was their birthday. I worked with a couple of Marines, and then of course, we know a few. Sammy, happy birthday. And Dwight O'Neal, happy birthday.
He's a Marine?
Yes, he was. Yes, he is. I can't say yes, he was. I got in trouble for that long time.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, once a Marine, always a Marine.
Yes.
Yeah, I heard that today when people were talking about it also. Yeah, once a Marine, always a Marine. You're never a former Marine. Hey, so who is the picture behind you?
It is just a picture I found and pulled off for tonight since we're talking about veterans. I don't know who they are or where they are, but I appreciate their service.
If I'm not mistaken, that's World War II. They got the crosses on there. I believe that is part of what was going on in World War II. So yeah, I did some research today. Just kind of some firsts and some names and those different things for the different branches and stuff. And so, and one of them in particular with the Army connects to the Central Valley. Are you familiar with that story?
No.
Okay, so I'll go to that one last. So in the Navy, there's numerous. There's about a dozen ships that are named after African Americans. One of them, most famously, is Dory Miller. No relation that we know of to us, but Dory Miller was during the Japanese invasion in Hawaii. He was a cook who, when everything was going haywire, wound up leaving the kitchen, went up on deck, and took one of the high caliber guns and shot down.
I have heard that story. I didn't know that that's who it was. I didn't know his name was Dory Miller though.
Yeah, his name is Dory Miller.
If he's a hero, then I'm sure he's related to me.
Okay, and if he's related to you, that means he's related to me. So, but I don't know.
That's correct.
But it's Dory
And
Miller,
if he wasn't before, he is now.
right?
Shout
And
out,
so,
Dory.
one of the other people in there, and you guys may, I should have looked up what the movie was called. Cuba Gooding Jr. did a movie about the first black master diver. His name was Carl Bashir.
Right?
Do you remember what the movie was called?
No, I don't.
Anyway, Carl Bashir was the first master diver. In the movie, it talks about all the discrimination and all the odds he had going against him to become a master diver. He went through all of it, took it all. And then after that, during a training operation, he wound up having a severe injury on one of the boats and lost his leg. Had to have a leg amputated when it was crushed. And so I want to make sure that I acknowledge Carl Bashir, who was the first African-American master diver with the Navy. With the Marines, doing a little research. The first African-American officer in the Marine Corps was a gentleman by the name of Frederick Clinton Branch. And he became an officer in 1942. So that was right in the midst of what was going on with World War II. And he was, as I said, I don't know what his whole pedigree was and where he served and those type of things, but Frederick Clinton Branch is recognized as the first officer in the Marine Corps in 1942. The Air Force, everybody's heard about the Air Force, they just may not know that. The Air Force, remember, until 1940, I believe it was, no, actually it was a lot later than that, Eisenhower. So maybe 48 is when the armed services were actually integrated. So before that, people had the armed forces was segregated. And so everybody's heard of the Tuskegee Airmen. And I'll talk about them in a little bit. But with the Air Force, the first people in the Air Force there was an experiment that started at Tuskegee, Alabama, Tuskegee University in Tuskegee, Alabama, with training Air Force pilots. And there was over 100 pilots that was trained to do fighter missions and things, escorts that they did during World War II. But even a bigger part of that people don't realize is all the support that went along with those planes. So all the mechanics, all of the cooks, all of the people that was involved in what was going on with the Tuskegee Airmen were all black because we were a segregated armed force at that time. And so there was estimated that it was upwards of 2,500 people who had received training in Tuskegee as part of that experiment out there. And some of the names that came out of that, the first officer was Benjamin O. Davis Jr. I know there's been films about him. And then Daniel Chappie James was one of the first fighter pilots, not an escort guy, but an actual fighter pilot, was part of the Tuskegee Airmen. But the Tuskegee Airmen was noted during World War II for escorting bombers. So,
right. And as one of the chaperones of Leadership West Fresno, we took 2 or 3 trips down to Tuskegee, which is in Alabama, which has an air museum on the campus, and they have, I believe it's over 1,000 acres, and there was an airstrip and an airfield out in the back of
correct.
Tuskegee where they did all the training in Tuskegee, Alabama. So, yeah, if people would get out of black folks' way, we would, African Americans and Africans in the diaspora, we would be able to save the world. But hey, that ain't in some people's agenda.
So there's movies and all the type of things about the Tuskegee Airmen and what they did, and what they're noted for was, like I said, escort planes. And so as the U.S. was bombing Hitler and what was going on with the Germans in different places, these big old bombers couldn't defend themselves. They big old huge planes that got all these bombs and stuff in them, but they didn't have the ability to fight stuff. And so the Tuskegee Airmen would fly escorts to get these bombers into wherever they were going, into Europe or Italy or Germany or wherever it was they were going to bomb, and they never lost a bomber. The whole time that they were fighting in the air, they never lost a bomber. And the white bomber pilots would request that they get escorted from wherever they were flying from into the battlefield by the Tuskegee Airmen. That was the type of reputation that they had.
And
so,
how did they know that they were being escorted by the Tuskegee Airmen?
The red tails. They had
The red tails.
The back fin of the plane was painted red, and so that's how they knew that they were being escorted by the Tuskegee Airmen, is because of the red tails. And I think that's the name of one of the movies, right? The latest one was called Red Tails. Yeah. And so one of the things with the Tuskegee Airmen and red tails is that after World War II calmed down, they had a bunch of pilots that they had trained, but the war stopped. So a lot of the trainings, I want to say the experiment started in 1940, but they were not sent into the battlefield until 1943. And then the war was over in 44, 45. So there was only like a year and a half where the Tuskegee Airmen was actually escorting these bombers. So they had all these pilots and different people who can deal in the Air Force, mechanics and that kind of stuff. They didn't know what to do with them. A lot of them wound up in Sacramento. There used to be a huge Red Tails Tuskegee Airmen chapter of retirees that was there, and I don't know if it was Mather or one of those Air Force bases that are there in the Sacramento area is where a lot of a few of the Tuskegee Airmen retired from, and so they were there in the Sacramento area. And they just lost, maybe like in the last 5 years or so, the last living Tuskegee Airman who was involved in training in the battle and stuff. He just passed away.
Well, yeah, you think about it. If he was 18, probably older, because a lot of them actually had college degrees.
Correct.
So you figure if he was 20 years old in 1945, 40 to 45, that would put him right at 100 years old. So, it's time for some folks to be getting on out of here. And unfortunately, I can see that. There probably ain't too many of them left, unless they was flying when they was 5 years old.
I don't think that I may be wrong, but if I'm not mistaken, I don't believe that there are any living Tuskegee Airmen who was actually involved in the battlefield. The ones that are alive now were the ones that were getting trained in 44, 45 when the war ended, and then they went to different places. But they weren't actually involved in the World War II battle. The campaign, yeah. They weren't involved in that. They still call themselves Tuskegee Airmen because they came through the training that happened there at Tuskegee University, but they didn't actually go into Europe to participate in what was going on over there. So, but yeah, if I'm not mistaken, Chappie James, if I'm not mistaken, was one of the gentlemen who when he passed, he was in not Fairfield, he was in Yuba City. Up there just north of Sacramento. So it was one of these guys. I don't remember if it was Davis or James, but one of them. It was one of the two of them. When they passed away, they were up there in the Sacramento area. And
beautiful country up there.
What's that?
There's beautiful country up there.
Well, we have California has some connectivity to what goes on with the Tuskegee Airmen. But here is the real connection to the Central Valley with the armed forces. Has to do with the Army. Okay, so everybody has probably heard of the Buffalo Soldiers, and a lot of people may not know the details of the Buffalo Soldiers. Buffalo Soldiers was an all black regiment. I think they said there was 6 of them that was put together around the time of the Civil War. So this would have been 1868 or whatever it was, 66, 68. So they were formed at that time, but they were part of the Army towards the end of the Civil War, and they were sent to the Western Front. So they were in Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, places like that, which was the Western Front. So they were sent out there. That's how they got the name Buffalo Soldiers. They got that from the Native Americans, the Sitting Bulls. I don't know who some of the other people that the Indian chiefs then. They said that the people that they fought against, these black soldiers they fought against, were as tough as buffaloes, and they had hair like buffalo. So our afros reminded the Native Americans of the afro that's on a buffalo, if you ever seen a buffalo. And so that's how they got the name of Buffalo Soldiers, is from the Native Americans in the fierceness of them fighting on the Western Front. And so when the Civil War was over, there was really no more fighting for the Army to do. And so they changed and put a lot of the Army people into doing surveillance. I forget I can't think of what the term is, but where you're going out doing land, you're figuring out
surveying.
There you go. Thank you. So a lot of the black Army people at the end of the Civil War started doing surveying, and so they were very, 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 very influential in the establishment of the national parks.
Yep.
There were some that were involved with Teddy Roosevelt when they started putting together Yellowstone and what was going on with that. But most significantly, these Yosemite and Sequoia National Forests, so Yosemite National Park and Sequoia National Forest, which is 50 miles from where we are right now, was surveyed and plotted out by Buffalo Soldiers under the leadership of he was a colonel at that time. His name was Charles Young. So when you go to Yosemite, there are different acknowledgments of Colonel Young and the leadership that he gave with the plotting out of Yosemite in particular. But they were the ones who found the large sequoias, Grant's Grove,
Tree. Yeah.
the big tree and the grove of those trees. It was the Buffalo Soldiers under Charles Young that found those groves and were the ones who surveyed it and acknowledged and named those things that were up there. And so there is a direct connection to the Central Valley, in particular in Fresno and Madera County, and actually in Tulare County, with the Buffalo Soldiers under the leadership and guidance of Colonel Charles Young. And significantly, he was born on March 12th, 1864. So he shares a birthday with our mother, which I thought was kind of was interesting. He was by the way, he was the first black colonel in the Army. So the other thing that goes on with the Army, which is a little bit less shared, and I didn't even think about this until just right now, is Colonel Allensworth, the first all black settlement in the state of California, which is down by Tipton, which is about 45 miles south of us, down there between Tipton and around Corcoran. That was also plotted out, surveyed, was put together by a gentleman who came out of, I don't know if he was a Buffalo Soldier or not, but I do know he was an Army officer. Colonel Allensworth was the one who created that settlement that's down there. So we have two huge influences here in the Central Valley from African-American colonels who were part of the Army regiment.
Yes, sir.
So interesting. I just thought that would be interesting to share and talk about as we're talking about our veterans and the connection between African-Americans and the Central Valley. And there may even be more. I'm gonna keep digging.
Oh, well, there are more. There's the Richmond shipyards where they built the big ships in the bay up there in Richmond.
Uh-huh.
And there was a large explosion, and a lot of people came past in that explosion, and that set some standards for handling ammunition and munitions in the Navy. A lot of African Americans moved out. I was listening to I don't know if it was a podcast or something, where they were talking about how I think it was about the land development and how African Americans
Oh
came
yeah,
into the Bay Area, and
yeah,
how Richmond was a very segregated
yeah.
society up there, and how they couldn't live in the city. They had to live in what would be out in the Contra Costa County in the shacks and shanties. But yeah, that was
Public. It was public housing. They put together, but basically
yes,
projects. Yeah.
yes. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
and it was they could only live in some, and they couldn't live in
Right.
others, and
Right.
yeah. So yeah, no, we have a really strong. You know, I'm not a big Southern California person, so I can't really tell you about them, what's going on down there. But yeah, I do remember hearing that story about, and there was the oldest African American park ranger. I don't know if it was a state park or a federal park, whichever that is. That's where she was working, giving tour guides. So it might, if you are in the looking for a day trip, of course not now in COVID, but that might be something that you could plan up also to learn a little more African American history about
Where was this?
California. In
Where was
Richmond,
this?
where?
Yeah.
In Richmond, California, in the Navy shipyard that's back there. They have a museum, and the oldest park ranger, and like I said, I don't know if it's federal or state, and I think she was in her 90s, so hopefully she's still around. And there's people that can tell you about it, but it would be worth a day trip to go up there and get some African American history about the Richmond shipyards.
Yeah, there was a tour guide that was, I think he just retired though, up in Yosemite, African American, who could give you all the history of what was going on with the Buffalo Soldiers and how they surveyed out the Yosemite Park and all those type of things up there. If I'm not mistaken, I think he retired just recently. We used to take, when we took those kids, that leadership conference, so we used to go up to Merced every year with the middle school kids. They would take a day trip up to Yosemite, and he would take, as a park ranger, he was a federal park ranger.
Mm-hmm.
A federal park ranger, and was a brother that was up there that would take people around. But like I said, I think he retired in the last couple of years. So yeah, and man, if people want to get an opportunity, you can always go down to, well, not right now, but Colonel Allensworth also down there with their settlement. Like I said, down there by Corcoran, they do an event in February. They do something for Juneteenth. They do a Pioneers event that talks about their history. That's usually done in May, and then they have a Juneteenth celebration down there as well. And I don't know what the schedule is for 2021, but it's an opportunity to go down there and kind of take a look at the African American, the first all black settlement in the state of California is less than 60 miles south of Fresno. So
and you can learn how they got their water contaminated and cut off
by
to stop y'all
Stratmore.
from being prosperous, and yeah, you can learn the treacheries of other cultures.
Yeah, so those are the things that I want to. I mean, as far as oh, I take that back. One more person, one more name that everybody should know. Crispus Attucks, okay, is recognized as the first casualty of the American Revolution. He was of African and Native American descent, and he was killed at the Boston Tea Party, Boston Massacre. And have you ever heard the story about the Boston Massacre, the Boston Tea Party?
Yeah, you discussed that with me one time, that it is not actually as it has been told in the history books.
It is nothing like, and I encourage people to take a look at Malcolm Gladwell. It was a podcast that Malcolm Gladwell put together that talked about revisionist history, basically how you look at the way that history has been told to us, and you actually look at the details of history, and then you kind of get a revised version of it. but the Boston Tea Party was about smuggling. Had nothing to do with the revolution. Had to do with smugglers. And the smugglers at that time, it was they didn't want to pay taxes, and so they wound up putting all the tea from the legitimate sources into the harbor, so the smugglers and the tea bandits can keep up their nefarious businesses. So anyway, Crispus Attucks was killed as part of what went on with what's called the Boston Massacre. Not the Tea Party, but the Boston Massacre. He was one of the first casualties, and he was a black of African and Native American descent. And I didn't write the year down, but it would have been
76, ain't it? Ain't that when it was the war broke out and they got to fighting and doing their thing?
But it would have been, I think it might have been before that when he got killed. Anyway, I should have wrote the date down, but I didn't. But yeah, so 1776 or around that particular time is when Crispus Attucks lost his life as well, and so he needs to be acknowledged today as well. So I encourage everybody to go back and take a look at the contributions that African Americans and people of the African diaspora has made to military service. And it is rich and lengthy, and like I said, and it's was a situation where until 1948, 52, somewhere in there, wherever Eisenhower was the first president to desegregate the military, and up until that time, blacks and Native Americans could serve in the military, but they had to serve in segregated ranks, and so they lived in black barracks. They lived in all black. They were in all black regiments, fighting. And they're in it's a Tuskegee Airmen. I believe it was the Tuskegee Airmen movie. They're in Italy, and some of the Tuskegee Airmen are officers, and Americans went to Italy, and they basically commandeered certain areas where only officers could go into a particular club or pub or whatever. And so the African Americans who were officers wanted to go in the pub. They were officers, and they were met with resistance until they found out who they were. When they found out they were the Red Tails and that they had escorted these guys to safety when they were dropping their bombs in Europe, then all of a sudden the whole mood changed from some of the guys that were there, some of the servicemen that were there in Italy. I remember some stories and watching some documentaries about what was happening in Italy in particular. So it's been a long, hard road. I don't know what the percent. Do you know what the percentage of African Americans are in the military?
I do not.
Let me see if I can find it real quick.
One fun fact though is that African Americans can only serve in the military based on an executive order, which was bantered about that Trump might repeal that order just to be a crotch rocket, and he could kick all the African Americans out of the military if he repeals that executive order.
So say that again. There's somebody who did an executive. Must have been Eisenhower then.
And Eisenhower. And I believe that it was, and I know for a fact because I was reading an article about Eisenhower. His mom was a mulatto, so he was a black person, and he signed the executive order stating that African Americans could serve in the military in the armed forces. So that we're riding on the back. It's not a constitutional amendment; it is an executive order that can be repealed. And bye-bye military for African Americans. I don't think it will happen, but who knows what the clown and the White House, the current clown in the White House, will do. That's just a fact that we're gonna slide in there for your public knowledge.
Check this out. I'm looking at a website right now. It's called Statistica. So I don't know if it's I don't know nothing about it. I just kind of punched it up. So in 2018, by race. In the military, 29.22% of the women that were in the military were black. It is second only to white females that are in the military, 53.76. Black men were 16.82%. This is enlisted, active duty enlisted, which was third behind 69, basically 70% white, 17.32% Hispanic, and then 16.82 black. So black women are the second largest ethnic and gender population in the military.
Very interesting.
That is incredible. I mean,
And they're trying to escape, poverty coming out of the South, I'm sure, where there are no jobs, there are no issues. They go into the military. One of the guys that I work with, he was sharing a story with me about how he came out of Louisiana with his cousin and went into the Marines and ended up in California.
So think about this. The African American, there are more African American, there are more female African Americans. So there's 13% more, 12% more African American females than there are males in military. The only other thing that compares to that is Hispanic, which is female is 20.21% and men are 17%. That's 13% difference, more women than men in the African American and 3% more in the Hispanic community. That's incredible. I did not realize that.
Why is that incredible?
Because of the discrepancy, and that there's that many black women, African American women, that are going into the military. I mean, I guess I shouldn't be surprised, knowing what I know about education and what's happening with African American men. Some of the factors that would probably prevent them from being able to go into the military: criminal justice interactions, not graduating from high school, death, being killed in homicides, and whatever,
Jail, being incarcerated, locked up for no good reason.
Wow, I need to take a look at this. This is something I'm gonna look at. Like I said, this was just the first website that I grabbed, Statistica, and I've never heard of them, so I don't know anything about what their data says.
Okay.
And like I said, that was as of 2018. Okay, so here's Pew. Let me see.
Yes.
They're saying overall the women are increasing across the board in the military. Yeah, I have to take a look at this more deeply. But Pew has numbers on it as well, and they're a very reputable research entity. But that's interesting to me, man. Very interesting. Okay, what else is on your topic?
Your mayor-elect has corona.
That's significant, not because he has corona, but how he got it. You heard the story about how he got it, right?
No, well, last week when I was here, Brandau was talking about how he had it.
They got it all at the same event.
Mask up and won't stop going to parties. So hey, corona is non-discriminatory.
They had a super spreader. The conservatives had a super spreader election watch party that Brandau was at, Dyer was at, and Darius Assimi, local developer, deep pocket developer, was all at, and they all have coronavirus now. So that is all connected through their through the county, Fresno County, what do you call it, contact tracers or whatever the hell it is called. They've confirmed that the three of them have the virus, and that they were all at the same election watch party event. So that's significant because that's the conservative mindset. Look what's going on a national level. They're tracing shit. What are their names? Damn, I can't even think of the names. But there's a group with of Trump's people that all have coronavirus.
His White House staff.
Yeah, I can't think of the names though.
Anyway,
Anyway,
their
yeah,
name, the individual people's name.
yeah, the individual people's name. But there's numerous staff members that have been.
Shoot, Ben Carson. The
This is more recent. There's a recent outbreak, and they're doing tracing, and they're finding out that these rallies, these last minute presidential rallies that he had, those cities that he went to, are having spikes in COVID. 2 weeks after he was there. So he don't give a damn about nobody, man, except for his damn self. So,
well, yeah. Welcome to the party. He's everything that I've heard, news talk in different places are talking about how he's now won't concede because he's trying to make all the money he can so that he can pay his bills off because he ain't got no money to begin with. So he's putting the country in harm's way because of his selfish conservative values. And I asked a person last night. We got into a conversation, and I asked, he's a Trump supporter, and I asked him. I said, well, I'm not trying to get into a debate with you, an argument or anything, but do you really honestly believe? Two questions: one, that Trump has any chance of winning, and two, that Trump is going to lead the country in the right path? I said, I just need for you to answer those two questions. The first one he answered was that he honestly believes that there was corruption and voter fraud, and that Trump is going to win his lawsuits, and he was going to make it stay in the White House. Then he turned around and said that if Trump, if he loses, then, which he's already lost, but this is the mindset of the conservative folks, if he loses, then he'll just have to come back and run again and win the presidency back and put the after the hole that he has dug, it's going to be really, really hard for the next person to fix that hole. I don't know if it's enough dirt, sod, or soil to put in the hole that Donald Trump is going to leave in his wake. But that side of the aisle, they really, really believe in this lying, conniving thief of a person.
I can guarantee you that he will not be eligible to run for office because he will be a felon. There's no doubt in my mind in the next 4 years, he will be convicted of a felony. Which then will make him ineligible to run in 2024. So, interesting. But I've heard that same information. The thing that supposedly the conservatives are trying to do now is delegitimize individual state elections so they cannot certify in time. They cannot certify their elections. These are the numbers in time for the Electoral College. That's what's going to happen in Georgia. Georgia will not be able to certify in time because there's no way in hell they're going to be able to do a hand recount of all those ballots in time. I think their deadline, if I'm not mistaken, their deadline is November the 20th. That's 9 days from now. They're supposed to count how many ever million, hand count how many ever million ballots they got.
Well, is he still, is the count still within the margin of error that they need for the recount?
Yeah, 0.5. It's within the margins. So that part of it is going to be legitimate. The part of it is going to be illegitimate is they are not going to be able to hand count that information by the deadline. They got 9 days to recount all those ballots. And so what they're going to say is we cannot, as a state, the state of Georgia cannot certify the numbers that they have as being accurate. So when that happens, then it goes to their state legislature to direct how they're going to cast their electoral ballots. They're hoping that shit happens with Pennsylvania, but it's not going to happen. Pennsylvania's lead is too big. It's either Michigan. I think it's Michigan. They're going to try to do the same thing with Michigan, but the Michigan lead is too big. Nevada, he cannot do. No, I'm sorry, not Nevada. Arizona, he can't do a recount unless it's within some small number that Biden is way outside of. So they got to flip, and it's not just one state they have to turn, like with Bush and Gore in 2000. They got to flip 3 states in order for the election not to be certified. And they're not going to be able to do that. They're going to try, but they're not going to be able to do that.
Why are you eating?
My stomach is growling. You can't hear me smacking.
Okay.
You just see my lips going.
I can hear you smacking.
Anyway, so we're talking about politics. One of the things I want to talk about or just mention is the significant accomplishments that we made as African Americans here in the Central Valley. Right now, minus Kern County, which I have not been able to get their information, but Tulare, Kings, Fresno, Madera, Merced, Stanislaus, and San Joaquin counties, we have right now, unofficially, we have 20 African Americans that have been elected to either as trustees for educational entities or to city councils, and we have 1 county supervisor that was elected. So locally, here in Fresno County, 2 firsts. Sean Brooks will be the first African American female on Central Unified School District Board. Yolanda Moore will be the first African American ever in Clovis Unified Board. Katina Austin, friend of mine out in Dos Palos, will be the first African American female on Los, or whatever the hell it is, Orlando, or whatever the hell it is, school board. Dr. Gail Crooms will not be the first, but she got elected in Kings County to Lemoore Elementary School District. Dr. Crystal Jackson is the first African American elected to the West Hills Community College District in Kings County. Anita Evans is the first African American female ever to be elected to the Madera City Council. Rhodesia Ransom will be the first African American county supervisor, I think, in the entire valley. She just got elected in San Joaquin County, which is Tracy Stockton. But if I'm not mistaken, she is the first African American county supervisor elected in all counties in Central Valley. I have to check that. I know she's the first in San Joaquin, first female as well as African American. And then Nancy Young was elected as the first African American mayor of the city of Tracy. She's been on the city council up there, but she just got elected as mayor to the city council. To the mayor for the city. Also significantly, we talk about conservative and progressive, Democrat, red versus blue, in the Central Valley, there are 2 blue counties. Fresno County and Merced County actually were blue. They voted in favor of Biden and Harris, as well as they elected some other countywide officers that are also in the Democratic side. So those 2 counties are also blue going forward. The state of California, significantly blue. In the presidential election, we grew
In 2016, we were at 61% of the people in California voted for Hillary Clinton. For Joe Biden, it's up to 65%. So we are actually becoming bluer on a national scale. Of course, you probably have heard that this is the largest, the most participated in election ever in the history. Basically 145, 150 million people voted in this election. Joe Biden is at 76.
But I'm gonna ask you this question because I heard this last night.
Mhm.
What was the catalyst behind that?
I think there was two catalysts behind that. I think that one is that the people on our side of the ledger want to change. They didn't want to have Trump in office anymore. But on the other side of the ledger, a whole bunch of people wanted to keep him in office. And so I think that's the
Right. So he was the catalyst for all of these. Not all of them. I mean, there's I'm sure people voted for other reasons, but he was the main catalyst, negative and positive, for the votes, the turnout of the votes.
agreed.
And that is some power in the universe to be able to draw that many people to either love you or to hate you, to pull you in or to push you out. Luckily, there's more people that were on the side of pushing the clown back in the clown car, and so it's yeah, that was interesting. I heard it put that way last night, and I was like, wow, yeah, that's some power.
I agree with you. And the part that interests me about that is what is going to be the after effect when there is no clown to drive the pro and the con going forward. Are we going to regress back into our own silos and not participate, or are we going to continue the trek of participating in elections? As I'm talking about, we as a people, are we going to continue to participate? Are we going to, or
We
not?
as a people, as an African American nation within a nation, or as an American society?
Both. Are we African Americans going to continue to participate in the vote? We as Americans, as American citizens eligible to vote, are we going to continue to participate? So I'm interested to watch what's going to happen with the numbers to see how, when they do the breakdowns, how the 18 to 24-year-olds and the 24 to whatever it is, 36 or 34-year-olds, that younger group, I'm really curious as to what their participation rate is. Because remember, they are the largest, the under 40s is the largest group of voters that we have in the United States now. So I'm real curious to see what the participation rates were with them versus what will happen with the baby boomers, who's a generation before us, who has always carried the vote going forward. It's going to be interesting to see what goes on with those numbers.
Yeah, I think that the people that are over 40 are going to be dying off, and if Trump is 72,
correct,
he'll be 76, 77.
Biden is 78,
and that's going to be an interesting. By then he will be. Some of his lies and his character will be put on true display, but a lot of his benefactors and people that support him, they ain't gonna be around. They're gonna be off this planet.
Agreed.
And they'll be replaced with younger people who are going to pull toward a more unified society without the barriers of the understanding of color and race separates us humans, rather than bring us together.
I think another huge factor is that on November 20th, I think it is 20th or 21st, Joe Biden will be 78. So if he stays in term the whole time, God blesses him to serve his 4 years, he's going to be 82 years old when it's time to run again for the next election. What's gonna be the fallout from that? I can't see an 82-year-old man running for president. So what happens then? Is it Kamala, which it seems like that would be the natural pecking order, or is it something else is going to happen? And how does that affect the progressive Democratic side of the ledger moving forward?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a whole new group of people on both sides. I think Kamala Harris is going to be a factor, but I think it's hers to win or it's hers to lose, depending on how she acts and some of the decisions that she makes. But I think it's going to be a whole new span, and I would like to see African Americans withdraw from the Democratic Party and the Republican Party and start their own party, and leverage their vote according to what best suits and needs that we have. I don't care who's the president as long as what their policies are benefiting me and mine.
Okay, so that leads me into this last point, and we're running out of time. We got 4 minutes. So here's the next big thing that's going to happen. January 5th is the runoff election for the 2 Senate seats in Georgia.
Yes.
Currently the Senate sits at 50 Republicans, 46 Democrats, and 2 independents, which the independents usually side with the Democrats. So it's 50-48. Those 2 seats in Georgia are going to be key into allowing Biden and Harris to be able to get their administrative, their policies and procedures across. Darren Miller, is going to be working heavily through the month of December. And anybody who's listening who wants to help me with this, to get Ossoff and Pastor Warnock, that's the wrong name. I can't think what his name is now.
That's it.
It's not Warnock. It's close to that. Anyway, to work on getting them elected to the Senate. And so I'm going to make some contacts, figure out how we can do calling. Those of you who have money, I would ask you to give money to those individual candidates, if not the Georgia Democratic Party. But we in California are living high on the hog right now, and I think that we need to make sure that we are participatory in the national scope to make sure that we get those, or work as hard as we can to get those 2 Democratic people into the Senate, because Joe Biden, with all the stuff that we've done, the 60% vote that we gave him in California won't mean a hill of beans unless he's able to count on the Senate to be able to support what he's doing legislatively.
And one thing that you, in your civics lesson there that you left out is that if it's 50-50, Kamala Harris will be the tiebreaker.
Correct.
And so as the vice president, she actually runs the Senate. So they'll be able to get a lot of stuff done without the obstructionists of Colonel Turtle and Tutti Frutti. And I think that that's a good place to be. I also read Sean King's book. I think it's Make the Change or Be the Change. He has a new book out. I'm going to go buy it for you and give it to you. You need to on your current path. You need to shuffle through.
Don't waste your money on buying a book. Get a podcast or a subscription so I can listen to it. Because reading ain't my thing. I have to do it. I have to read. I know, but reading for pleasure ain't my thing. So I'm
gonna buy you a book, and I'm gonna give it to you, and I'm gonna hide a $10 bill in it toward the end. So you're gonna have to read to find the $10 bill.
Yeah, I got a technique for that too. I know how to flip through pages.
Hey! It'll be yours. You can burn it. You could tear the pages out, and wipe your butt with it. I don't care.
My library.
It'll be yours to do whatever you want with it.
My library is impressive, but I can't tell you that I done read all of them.
Okay.
Yeah, dude, I didn't read my first book from cover to cover until I was 24, 25 years old.
And what was the book?
Having Our Say.
Huh?
Having Our Say. It was a memoir of 2 African American sisters, blood sisters, that grew up through, they weren't slaves, but their parents were born into slavery. They grew up in the South and migrated to Harlem. So they were part of the Renaissance and Depression and all that kind of stuff. 2 teachers. I think they were both teachers. Sadie and I forget their names, but it was 2 African-American sisters, never got married, any other type of thing. And both of them lived to be right at 100 years old. And it's called
Did you ever
Having Our
read the
Say.
autobiography of Malcolm X?
Yeah. I read most. I haven't read it cover to cover, but I read most of it. So, yeah, so Having Our Say was the first book I ever read. So anyway, we're up against it. So it's 9 o'clock. We appreciate everybody tuning in and listening to the Miller Boyz and what we got to say. What's your parting shots? You didn't change your background, what, 4 times now? 3 times?
Yeah, that's correct. You know why? Because I'm awesome.
Okay. I like the first one, though, for the night. Anyway, where the brothers at? With the crosses?
Where the brothers with the crosses?
Yeah.
Yeah, they went to sleep.
Oh, okay.
They went to
What's
sleep.
your parting words,
in the
man, so we get out of here?
My parting words is we're moving into Christmas, or moving into the holidays. Be careful, be safe and sane. You know, Trump's favorite scientist, Dr. Fauci, tells y'all to maybe you might want to skip Thanksgiving or do it virtually. You know, think about what you're doing before you do it, because COVID is real. You can ask some of your civic leaders how it feels. Don't feel too well. Don't feel too good. Hopefully they no, I ain't even gonna say that, but I was gonna say pull through. But you know, hey, we'll see how they atone for their sins and all the screwed up stuff that it's hard to not cuss. Screwed up stuff that they've done over the past, and see how they are treated. But you know, as in always, love, peace, and hair grease. And if you need it, use it. You might have to put some of that grease on your knees and elbows. But you know, hey, it's all love. It's all love. Stay happy, stay smiling. Keep a smile on your face.
And always, God willing, we will be. Oh, first of all, update on the parents. Dad is still dad. He's doing his thing. We're hoping to get mom home this weekend. She's doing better. Her surgery was successful. We got some other things we got to deal with. So keep Harry and Bessie in your prayers. But they're both doing fine. They're both doing well with us, and hopefully they'll be reunited, if not this weekend, in the very, very, very near future. So with that, God willing, we'll see everybody back here next Wednesday. We're in touch with the Miller Boyz at 8 o'clock next Wednesday.
What's the date on that?
I don't know. What's the date? 11 plus 7, 18.
Very good.
11-18. See you there. 11-18. Peace.
Yes, and it's 11 something 22 today. You're supposed to plan up your day and wish for things and follow through. Great day for that.